listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send an email, xzoneradiotv.com on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can listen to the X-Zone 724, 365, as well as the show Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight at www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Francine Vale. Now, she was born in the Bronx, married her prince on a white horse, and brought her beautiful children into the world. Looking toward the future and her family's security, she became her husband's partner, and together they have built a successful business. In 1991, her spirit guide revealed himself to her, showing Francine images of her true, authentic self. A golden light being spoke of their home planet and reminded her of her destiny on Earth. Now, in this way, with spiritual guidance of the utmost gentleness and loving kindness, through experiences of profound wonder and the teachings of profound wisdom, all the while maintaining relationships and holding on to her New York lifestyle until it could be no longer sustained. Francine's life was changed forever. Her website is www.francinevale.com. And Francine, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rob. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us. My goodness. Tell us about this, all I can say is this wondrous revelation that you're actually a light being, a golden light being. So how did you feel when you heard this news and you actually met your spiritual guides?
Well, that's an interesting question. A lot of people want to meet their spirit guides. When he revealed himself to me and I saw him and we began this dialogue, which was telepathic, when you're in that space, it's like your just because they come to you and they're talking to you, your frequency is raised so that you can have this conversation. So when your frequency is raised, you're in a higher place, and when you're in a higher place, your consciousness knows the truth. There is no doubt. Mm-hmm. There is no questioning. You know that the person talking to you is speaking truth, and so you accept it for what it is. Later on, when you're back in your regular 3D life, you begin to ask questions, and then you begin to do some research so you can find out what's going on here. But when you're in that elevated place, everything is truth. And you begin very quickly to realize that is so beautiful, and it's such a blessing and a gift to be able to learn these things. If someone just sits and says to you, you're a beautiful light being, well, okay, that's very nice. But when you're in that higher place, they don't just say it, they show you. You see yourself that way. And it's taken in with a way that it's hard to, we don't do that here. We doubt things, and we're not sure if the person is telling us the truth and all of that. But it's very high frequency that is just truth. And so I accepted it, I saw it, and I began to learn. And it was a learning that was a dialogue. I had to ask the question. He didn't tell me anything that I didn't ask. So he opened it, and everything in me also opened. So there was a portal, sort of like a soul portal,
Right.
that I went through. And in going through that portal, I was able to ask the questions and receive the answers, and not just intellectually, but in my heart. So it shifted my energy right away. And it was really quite a beautiful time in my life.
All right, we've got to take a commercial break right now, but we're going to be coming back, and I'd love to hear the rest of this fascinating story. Exonation, our guest this hour is Francine Vale. Her website is www.francinevale.com, and Francine is the author of, do you have your pencils and paper ready? Because here we go. Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light. Francine and I will be back on the other side of the short break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell, Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. until midnight. And then the rest of the 24-hour clock is the best of the X Zone from our shows going back to 1992. Francine Vale and I will return on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Francine Vale is our guest, www.francinevale.com, and Francine is the author of Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light. All right, so tell me, did you have any doubts whatsoever that what you were really communicating with, what was sending you these telepathic messages, was actually your spirit guide? And how did that moment change your life once you realized that, hey, this is real?
It actually did change my life. It was an absolute life-changing moment, akin to people who have near-death experiences and come back. It's just you're different. And this particular spirit guide, who is my guide, and I'm pretty sure that many people have loved ones who passed over who come to be their spirit guides. May not be someone that they know from this life. It could be someone from previous life that they're connected to their soul. And so this spirit guide was the child that I gave birth to and who died. And now he was, when he came to me, 26 years old. And I knew that as soon as I saw him somehow. Don't ask me how I knew it. I just knew it was him. And then he began to tell me that it was him. And so it was amazing. It was all part of a plan. All of this is part of our destiny. And we have experiences in life that seem like the biggest tragedy we could ever have, which is the way I felt when he died. But it's an inconsolable moment in a long moment. But you see, 26 years later, it was redeemed, and I understood the meaning of it. And so I'd like to say that all of the spiritual teachings that I received, they're not just like lofty ideas that keep you feeling like you know something that somebody else doesn't know. It's not like that at all. It really is for the purpose of bringing peace to this world. And the peace really begins inside each person. And when people are sick, for all the reasons that people get sick here on earth, they cannot feel the peace because their cells are literally out of harmony. So there's a lot of chaos inside them. And so peace has to begin inside us. And as a coincidence, today I was at the UN. I was invited to be there to celebrate International Women's Day with Ms. Nam Hee Kim, who is the chairwoman of the International Women's Peace Group. So I was there, and I was interviewed, and I had like a minute and a half or maybe less. And it was this very topic. It was all about bringing peace into the world. And they work on this as mothers, the women, in all countries around the world to bring peace. And we bring peace through love, and we begin to love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first love, is to love ourselves. It's not narcissistic to love yourself. Well, how can we not love ourselves when we are essentially a soul? We are a being of light in our own right. It's just here that we are a spark of light in our physical body. And a lot of what we are living through, especially in our country, which is so materialistic, is turning people away from even remembering that they have a soul. Materialism takes the place, but it doesn't serve us as well. Materialism serves our ego. But when we know we have a soul, when we remember that, and we connect with our soul, that serves us in such a deep way. Right away you become more peaceful when you connect with your soul. So that's really at the heart of it, is bringing healing and peace to the world. That was all my teaching was for that. At first, I had to be healed. There was a lot of healing that had to happen inside me from all my sorrows and all my pain. And it began in earnest. It was every day. And when I reached a certain level, you cannot actually be fully healed. After all, you can be healed, go out and stub your toe or fall down and hurt yourself again. You know, we're always on the verge or get upset over something, you know, but we have to be reasonably healed so that we're not carrying around a lot of dead energy inside us. Stuff, when I say dead energy, it's stuff that's gone that we're just holding on to in our cell, in our cellular structure. And we must release all that. That's a very big healing, is to release all the pain and sorrow that we've suffered up until now. And it's monumental.
Yeah,
it's not just this.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I don't mean any disrespect to anyone, but I understand that mothers are very nurturing. Mothers and women are very forgiving. But when you've got 95% of all the fighting being done in this world by men, how are you going to spread that love to the point where men will lay down their arms and start forgiving?
Well, that is the big question. So the only way that I can answer that is to say that those of us who are waking up and raising our frequency by learning about our soul and who we are as souls and becoming more of that spiritual being through our actions, our everyday actions, such as being kind to one another and living without judging one another and learning to love ourselves, we raise our own frequency. Now, when enough people on Earth have raised their frequency, we automatically raise the whole frequency of humanity. And we hope to raise the frequency of those who go to war so that they suddenly look inside themselves and say, what am I doing? Why are we making war? That's an awful...
If it's that simple, just by raising the frequency, how come this hasn't been done before? How come it is just now? And how come at this most pivotal point in the peace and serenity of this planet?
Well, first of all, we're coming to the end of a very long cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have life on Earth is arranged in linear time.
Mm-hmm.
That's so that we can come here and have our experiences that we can't have as a soul. We come here into a physical body to have the experiences. So that cycle of 10,500 years approximately is now coming to an end. And that means a new beginning is waiting for us.
But is it actually a new beginning, or is it a metaphysical new beginning? A new beginning that is in all sense of the word, a great idea, but not set in stone?
Well, the time is now for that new beginning to become manifested, and it is. It is becoming manifested in many ways. We have the green movement. We have people who are studying yoga, which is a very big opening for people to get into their meditations and spiritual self. The spiritual teachings are so much more prevalent today than they were even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, 25 years ago, when my spirit guide came to me. There was hardly anybody I could ever talk about this stuff with. Now, everybody's interested, and people say, yeah, I think I do believe in reincarnation. More and more people are opening up, and there's a big wave that's occurring, and the new shoots are happening. There are all kinds. I mean, I live in New York City. There are all kinds of new businesses starting that are supporting a healthier way of life.
But but when we look at the bottom line, all these new industries that are coming up, starting with, self-help, with the better way of living life, they are going after a specific market. As the internet grows and the information is, set out to the people, and people have more access to this information, I agree it's going to grow. But how long will it last? Is it a fad, or is it the real thing?
I feel that it's the real thing, because I feel that it's humanity's destiny to move into a higher frequency. And we must. I mean, we come from a higher frequency. It's not like we're going someplace that we have never been. We're just not in this lifetime on Earth. But we come from a higher frequency, so it's not that hard. Once we start to open, everything it happens fast. And things are happening faster today than ever before.
I agree, but how do you know for a fact we come from a place, or we come from a higher frequency? How do you know this?
I've been there. I've been there. In my book, I closed my book with the chapter, I saved it for the end, of when I went to the planet that I come from.
And
my home planet.
Where is this planet?
It's in another dimension that we don't see with our telescopes. I feel that it's in our solar system. It's a planet that is an administrative planet, so it administers the solar system. So, for instance, if there are, say, the people on Venus who we don't see, they're in another dimension. Even if we go there and land there, they would be in another dimension, another time frame and space frame. They would say they would contact the administrative planet and say something like, "We are concerned about humanity on Earth because they are exploding nuclear devices, and this is very bad not only for planet Earth, but it's very bad for the entire solar system. We're their neighbor."
Okay, stand by. I've got to take my news break. We'll be right back. X-Zone Nation, Francine Vale is our guest this hour. Her website, www.francinevale.com. She's the author of Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light, and we'll both be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You can also check out the X-Zone podcasts at www.xzonepodcast.com. My name's Rob McConnell. I'll be back after the news. Don't go away. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Welcome back, everyone. Francine Vale is our guest this hour, www.francinevale.com. And Francine is the author of Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light. Now, Francine, this planet that you're from is where again?
It's in our solar system, but I cannot tell you exactly where it is. I just know that I was there in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, I was there. And so, as I was saying before, so when the people of Venus sent out a message to the administrative planet that Earth was detonating nuclear devices, the call went out that's very dangerous to the entire solar system, the stability of the solar system.
All right.
And
now,
so,
and this administrative planet is where?
I don't really know where it's located because
right.
I was there in a second. 1 second I'm here, the next second I'm there.
All right. So the administrative,
there is no,
the administrative planet is the planet that you're from.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my home planet.
Gotcha.
So the way they responded was back in the 40s was to gather the forces of angelic beings in the universe who exist for this purpose. And they came in the millions to planet Earth to begin to help humanity raise their frequency. And so we have around us now, everyone has their angels, the spirit guides, more closely aligned with them to inspire people to wake up and to learn about who they truly are and to become more aware and awake. And it's the Great Awakening, and it is happening. It's happening in our literature, it's happening in our films, it's happening everywhere, all around us, entire culture. And so this is the way the administrative planet responded. And so it's about having reality on Earth reflect what must happen through our actions. We can't just talk about it or be lofty in our thoughts and our dreams. Although everything begins with our thoughts and our words, we then must take action. And everybody working together, each one of us doing our part in our own way, is what creates the frequency raising. That's what raises the frequency. That's what raises the consciousness. And once your consciousness is raised, you just can't go back. You just don't. You just don't go back. You even look at your own life and things that you did in the past and you say, how did I ever do that?
Yeah.
I'd never do that now, Because how? Because your frequency is raising. Your consciousness is expanding. And this is what's happening all around us. Even the conversation you and I are having now, you would not have had 20 years ago.
Actually, I was doing this show 20 years ago, and people were talking about this 20 years ago.
They were?
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Good for you, because I didn't hear it.
Well,
I was not aware of it 20 years ago.
I've been doing this every night for 25 years, talking about this very topic. And I've got to tell you something. I have seen no difference in the world over 25 years. It's gotten worse instead of better.
It only seems like it's worse.
Well, 25 years ago, wait a second here. 25 years ago, we did not have ISIS. 25 years ago, we did not have the threat of nuclear annihilation by North Korea. 25 years ago, we did not have climate change to the massive screw up it is today. 25 years ago, the sick people of the world, the starving people of the world, the homeless people of the world were not in the same massive amount of numbers that they're in now. So, looking back,
that's all true. That's all true.
Sure.
But it was happening in different ways, with different language and different style, because the technology has brought us to this time that we're in now. But back then, we had the Holocaust. We had millions and millions of people dying all over the world.
No, that wasn't 25 years. That wasn't 25 years ago. I'm talking 25 years ago to present.
No.
So where is all this
change? No, but it was developing. It was developing because there was a dark energy that was at work behind the scenes. And we don't even know who ISIS is. They're masked, they're covered. We don't even see their faces. We don't know who they are.
But we do see we do see their faces. What do you mean their faces are covered? We do see the faces.
When we see them, we see them on the media, they're wearing their black, their covers, and we don't really know exactly who they are. I don't believe everything I hear in the media.
Do you believe the media?
I don't know that everything I hear is true.
All right, so let me ask you this.
But
Let me ask you this. If you don't believe everything the media says, how do you expect the media to believe everything you say?
I don't expect them to believe everything I say. I just work with the people that are interested in hearing this.
Gotcha.
The people, and then there are other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just one. There are many more. The people that you spoke to 20 years ago were rare. There weren't that many.
There were tons of them.
But today we have the internet, and there's really, really
and the internet is
tremendous amount of people.
And the internet is the biggest septic tank that man has ever created, because there's more crap out there, and it's spawning more. It is spawning more deception and more disinformation than any other source of media in the history of this planet.
That's true, and that's it's also true that there are people studying shamanism. There's a huge wave of shaman schools are growing, and they go out and disseminate the teachings and the healings. And yoga, as I said, is a huge explosion of spiritual awareness. And so the good is happening alongside all of that. But I trust the good a lot more than I trust the negative news, because I just think that it's not what we are being told to believe, and it is very frightening when you hear it.
But life is frightening, and could it be that shamanism and all these other metaphysical things are just being used as a way to escape reality? That if we do this, we do that. It's either really. Wait a sec. If we do this, if we do yoga, if we do shamanism, if we do all these things that people are doing within the metaphysical world, that the angels or the aliens are going to come down here and solve all our problems for us, instead of people taking responsibility themselves, looking in the mirror, because that is the only person who can solve the problems and be a contributing member of society, is the person that you see in the mirror.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It begins with us. Peace begins with us. Well-being begins with us, because it's not about just these people going out and teaching and having the practices, and it's the work that you do. You do a lot of rigorous work in shamanism, in clearing out the ancestral codes, in clearing out your pain and sorrow. That's part of the process, and that helps to raise your consciousness. Once you've been to those places, your consciousness is raised. You really come away a different person. And the more you practice meditation, and the more you practice clearing out the old stuff that no longer serves you, that happened when you were a child and still plaguing you, when you learn how to clear that out, that is wondrous. That is so you get lighter. Your energy gets lighter, and you look better, and you feel better, and so you turn away from food that isn't healthy, and you choose food that is healthy, and you begin to look more closely and more diligently to healthy food, because your consciousness is aware of it now. And a lot of the food that we buy in the supermarkets is very unhealthy for us, loaded with sugar, salt, and GMOs and chemicals, and you start to stay away from that because you've gone through so much work to clear all the garbage out of you. Why start putting more in with the bad food? You see, so it starts to work that way, and it grows and expands, and we affect one another. When you walk into a room and somebody's angry, you immediately, you start to bristle, and you don't, if they turn their anger on you, you become angry. But if you walk into a room and somebody's greeting you with open arms and a warm embrace, and they're smiling and nice, that makes you relax, and you feel good. So we affect one another in ways we don't even know. We are. This is what I have learned. I have been to the Crystal Library, which is like the Hall of Records, I think. I call it the Crystal Library. But there is embedded in huge crystal volumes everyone's experiences, everyone's lifetimes are in these crystal volumes. And everything is recorded there. So we are eternal souls. We get born. We only change our frequency to be dense and be here in third dimension. And after we've finished, we pass on, and we're in a higher dimension. And then we come back with everything we've learned. And it's all been designed so that we can be now ready to let go of it. That's why we have so much chaos, because all of the old stuff has to rise to the surface and be dealt with.
All right, let me ask you this. If there is all this information in the crystal library, if the solution to this problem is known, if you have the aliens working with the angels, to me, for them to stand by and let us figure it out for ourselves is one of the biggest hypocritical bunch of crap I've ever heard. Because if they have that ability, and if they are really there, and if they are just standing by and watching this planet and these people, totally annihilate themselves, they're just as bad as the problem. They're not a solution, they're a problem.
But they're not just standing by.
What are they
doing? There are times they are inspiring us to do very real things. People are being inspired every day to go out and, change the world in their way. And in addition to that, I can tell you that there are some of us who go out, we soul travel at night, and we visit other people who are making war, and we sit with them and talk to them and wake them up in a higher dimension. And convince them to make changes. And that's why we've seen changes in the world. But, I think that, look, I struggle with these questions myself. Don't think I don't. If I listen to the news and if I read certain emails I get frightened. But then I raise myself out of that. I get recentered. And I tell myself that is part of the illusion.
You can tell yourself that, going to a crystal palace and that going soul traveling at night and talking to people and bringing the people into a higher dimension when you can talk to them there to try and bring peace. Obviously, it's not working. Is this an escape from reality? Is this a way of dealing with reality by alluding to a metaphysical existence that may not be there?
No, I don't think so. I think what we have here, some of the highest teachings is that this world is a world of illusion, and the only thing that's real is love. So everything that is loving is real. If it's not loving, it's part of the illusion. If we buy into that illusion and allow fear to overtake us, we forget that we have a soul. Yeah. We forget who we really are, and we live in fear. Enough fear will drive us crazy. It could turn people into drugs or into alcohol and make people really sick. That's how people get sick. Fear is the opposite of love. The more immersed you are in fear, the more amenable you are to becoming sick.
Sure, but once again, if a person is afraid, fear is fueled by the inability to cope with situations. You're afraid of new people who are afraid of speaking in public. They're afraid of that because they don't have the self-confidence to do it. Fear is something that we ourselves manifest. It has nothing to do with the person next door. It has nothing to do with the Catholic Church, the Anglican Church, the whatever organization is out there. The ability to fight fear is within yourself.
Well, the fear is part of the ego. So once the ego is also part of the illusion.
But if you're egotistical, you have no fear. So that argument doesn't wash.
No, ego is, I'm thinking of ego in a different sense than egotistical. We need our ego to survive. Mm-hmm. But if we go too far with the ego, then we become egotistical. So we need to have that self-love and know what's true within our own heart.
Right.
And once we connect with our soul, we know that that's eternal life. And there are so many people who have had near-death experiences come back and given reports and written books and talked about it on air about what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the true reality. When we come here, we're back into the illusion. And the illusion is set up to teach us what we have to learn.
All right, you call this existence an illusion. What happens if the existence that you believe in to be real is the illusion and not reality? What happens if you're wrong?
I don't think that I'm wrong because I have been there so often and I have done so many healings. You have to realize the healings that I do are done in a higher dimension. In a higher dimension, there is no illness. And so I bring the person's etheric body up into that higher dimension where there is no illness, and their angels are around them, and we raise the imprint of the illness. We actually raise the frequency of the imprint of the illness that's in their etheric body. Then they are lowered back into their physical body, and the etheric body is now capable of healing the disease because it is healed itself.
All right, I've got to take my commercial break here. When we come back, I'd like to hear more about the healing part because that's very interesting. Exonation, Francine Vale is our guest, www.francinevale.com. She's the author of Song of the Heart, Walking the Path of Light. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't forget, you can watch the Season 1 of the X Zone TV show now in their entireties, all 12 episodes at www.xzonetv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Francine Vale is our guest. And Francine, tell us about the healings.
Okay, thank you, Rob. For myself, I also need to have proof. And for me, the proof has always been from the very first healing that happened right after my stroke. I came to me. I have done thousands of healings. People get healed. And from the first all the way up until now, over 25 years later.
Yeah.
And right now, I have a woman who was recommended to me. She was in very bad shape, and she has a hole in her intestine, and she was not doing well at all. And I started working for her, well-being to return and to close the hole, and she immediately felt it, and she visualized it, she saw it, she received it beautifully, and I work with an emergency like that every 6 hours throughout the day, day after day.
Wow. But
I'll go as long as I need to.
What does the medical community say about these miracles? Can they document it? Are they validated by another source besides yourself? And how do you say this is real?
Well, the medical community is slow to come into it. I know that my personal doctors, because they respect me and know me, they are interested in my work. Some hospitals have spiritual healers coming in for breast cancer patients and other places. I have not. I have not worked in a hospital. I mean, I volunteered in hospitals,
sure,
with children and so on, but not in this way. But this is coming out. Part of the problem is, like a woman that I'm working with who has lupus. She was very sick. She was sent home to find herself a hospice because they said that she wasn't going to live much longer. And that was back on January 1st.
Who sent her
me.
home? Who sent her home? The hospital?
Her doctor sent her home and said there was nothing more they could do for her.
Okay.
And I don't remember if she was in the hospital at the time. She had many surgeries, very sick with cancer, the tumor breaking through the skin. I started working with her. Her spirits were raised immediately, and every day she celebrates because she's so far right now from checking into hospice that you can't believe. She feels like she has her life back. She feels like she still has lupus, but it's not taking her life, and the tumors have not grown, and some of them have shrunk. So she is doing very well. Can I take away her lupus? I am working on that. I have a method of doing that, but it's layer by layer by layer. There are hundreds of layers. And so this is the way the work is. It proceeds. People are being relieved of terrible diseases, and people are getting healed faster.
But how many people are dying because they're going to healers, spiritual healers, instead of seeking the medical help that the professionals can give them? Nobody talks about that.
That I don't know, but I do know because I did the research recently, because to me it seems like autoimmune disease is on the rise.
All right, listen, I hate to do this, but we've run out of time for tonight, Francine. Exonation, Francine Vale is our guest this hour, www.francinevale.com. And Exonation, seek professional medical help. Listen to me one more time. Seek professional medical help. Spiritual healers will say a lot of things, but what they will not say is how many people have gotten worse or passed because they ignored what the medical professionals have said and listened to spiritual healers. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.